How's it going, everybody? So it's almost the last talk of the day, so I'll try not to keep you guys too long, and I promised I'd let you guys out hopefully 5 minutes early, so I'm going to do my best to stick to that. It's great to be back here at AWE, and it's really nice to see some familiar faces out there. So I am very happy to start talking to you guys about what we've been doing for the last couple of years with broadcast AR, as well as AI. So I think the guys may be queuing up the presentation. There we go. So if you guys aren't familiar, my name is Eric Wagliardo. I'm the founder of Pull, which is a consulting firm and creative production company. Recently, we also founded a new product, which is called Mixer. And I'm excited to share with you some of the cool updates we have on that front as well. But I think it's interesting, is that me or is that me? So I'm not sure which one you guys prefer, but we've been doing a lot of work with AI, and I'm not quite sure if I'm ready for AI and which version of me I prefer. So I'll let you guys take your pick. So since we last spoke at AWE last year, we've been hard at work doing a multi-year journey trying to build out an AR pipeline, not for mobile AR, but for broadcast. And that's taken the shape in the form of a lot of the work we've been doing for Coachella, the music festival, to take a lot of the virtual production techniques that you guys may be familiar with for television shows like The Mandalorian, where they're building epic stages in Hollywood using giant LED volumes, and then using what they call in-camera special effects, or ICVFX, to put the virtual content behind the actors. But what we're really doing is taking a lot of those same techniques, helicoptering them to the desert for big, crazy festivals, and producing graphics like this. And this is some of the work that we did in 2022 that you guys might be familiar with, where we added augmented visuals to one show on the main stage for one of my favorite artists. It goes by Flume. And so this was a very fun project for me to work on personally. You guys are probably tired of seeing it. I know some of you guys have seen this before. In 2023, we scaled up from one artist to 3 artists. We did Bad Bunny, Gorillaz with some of our amazing friends at Nexus Studios and Force 11, and also Blackpink as well. So that showed more than a 2x increase in content. And this year in 2024, we were super excited to go back to the desert to expand the program beyond the main stage to then add the same broadcast AR technique to the Sahara tent. And this represents another 2x of the content, so increasing to 2 stages and to 5 artists. And so this was a very big push for us. And again, if you guys are familiar with a lot of the work being done with real-time rendering, this really represents a lot of the advancement with GPUs as well as game engines that a lot of the special effects that we've come to be so familiar with in the film industry can now be rendered at 60 frames a second live on television. And so I think that's really what is the most fascinating about this for me, is that we're trying to imagine what a concert of the future could look like, what a live event of the future could look like. And for many years, we were developing mobile AR activations and experiences. And for the last 3 years, we've really been trying to aim as high as we could to bring this to a much, much higher level of fidelity that would be more on par with the feature film. And so for us, this is kind of what gets us out of bed in the morning and gets us super excited. One of the things that was new for, actually, let me play this video real quick so this will give you a little behind-the-scenes look. This is a behind-the-scenes video that one of our production partners, very talented Lux Machina, put together. And what's really fascinating for us is trying to think about the infrastructure layer, that there's so many people doing amazing things as far as like building out technology, hardware, satellites, but then there's, I think, a little bit of a gap in the middle before we can really get to things like wearable and mobile AR at scale for something like a festival. Did this stop playing? Let's try this again. And so as a festival, we've been on this multi-year journey building out a pipeline that includes a lot of infrastructure that spans from broadcast television cameras, hardware tracking, a large amount of on-prem compute, I apologize, this video is stopping halfway through, so I'll just narrate. And we're really trying to imagine a future where people show up to concerts and show up to festivals with a headset like in their pocket, the way people show up with a phone today. And we're building out the tools and the infrastructure, hopefully, to get there. And right now, this is a very large lift. This year, we were very excited. Google came to us and asked us if we could incorporate generative AI into this pipeline. And so we spun up multiple workflows along that line, where initially we were diving into a lot of the off-the-shelf tools and techniques and workflows. We would generate 2D images, put them into a program like Runway, turn those 2D Gen AI images into short videos. And frankly, it was a little shocking that we could type in young girl with face paint at Coachella, and then we would just get videos like this in the top left. And it was shocking to us that the AI already knew what Coachella looked like. That was pretty fascinating. I typed in lizard man at Coachella, and this is what we got in the bottom left. And then we started to just play around with other types of just trippy visuals that we thought might be relevant to different artists that we're going to be playing this year. From there, we built out a custom workflow that utilized multiple workflows. We spun up several GPUs in the Google Cloud. It's kind of amazing how much H100 and an A100 box costs. So the rental on that was quite substantial. So we developed a unique workflow where a lot of the artists were actually a little bit risk adverse about doing generative AI live straight to television. So we were taking footage from rehearsals and from weekend one performances, and then doing the generation and the key prompting and having our artists go to town midweek so that we could have these things slotted ready for replay and insertion into their live shows. And so this was live to TV or live to the live stream. But in fact, we were using a lot of different techniques to get to this point. And I think this really opened my eyes to the potential of some of this technology. I've been working with AI for about 8 years now. And I think the speed at which these tools are coming to the marketplace is quite fascinating. If you want to watch the full video, we added kind of a wrap-up outro for Doja Cat's performance on the Coachella live stream. And that's part of what we're seeing here. So I'd encourage you, if you want to watch the whole thing for copyright reasons, we're not showing it to you guys today. But if you're interested, I would go and check that out. We also have been developing internal tools. And so I'll be showing a little bit more about this later. But in this example, we shot about 4 Coachella-branded commercials that were shipped live to air, where these balloons were generatively or AI-generated via the Google Cloud. And essentially, Google whitelisted us for APIs that are not public so that we could use our internal tools to prompt different types of assets and then drag and drop them directly into our television composite pipeline. And so that's some stuff I'll dig into a little bit more in a little bit. But this was really fun for us to explore multiple different ways that we continue to scale and expand our broadcast AR offering, which is part of a partnership with Epic Games. And then also working with Google on a lot of the really amazing things they're doing with Google Gemini. And so I think this is something that I think is really just scratching the surface for what's possible. And I'm really excited to take you guys into a few more techniques. But first, I want to share with you guys a little bit of our learnings. AR content and tools are still currently, for us, very expensive. The whole process of fielding a television crew that has AR-tracked equipment, as well as spinning up multiple content teams to service each artist and each artist that we work with, we're really coming to the table with vastly different types of content. Some people will be coming to us with very heavy Olympic caches. Some people would not have any content at all. And so being able to service this broad spectrum of artists who are used to working on very short timelines, where we're trying to treat this a little bit like a traditional software sort of pipeline or timeline. And a lot of the artists are saying, hey, we didn't even have a show a month ago. And so we're doing these things a little bit on the fly, developing the tools and the processes as we go. There's a very steep learning curve for some of the different tools we use, and so that really limits the pool of talent that we can hire into, as well as requiring us to invest in a lot of the companies that we work with to raise up their technical capabilities. A lot of this is also bespoke, as I mentioned. A lot of the artists that we work with at a place like Coachella have very, very phenomenal people. But each one of these shows really ends up being a unique creation in and of itself. Because so many of us are aiming for something that is new and hopefully show-stopping. And again, that kind of leads us into one of the, I think, pain points that we are dealing with is we really want to scale a lot of the things that we're doing. How do we really bring this to a mass market on par with a large festival? And each and every one of these shows ends up being very high touch, requiring a lot of individual project management and hands-on time. And so as we're thinking about scaling these things and scaling these offerings, it ends up being a big question is like, how do we actually on a human level scale something like this? So these are questions we're asking ourselves. And so as we were diving into the AI workflow, real quick, how many of you guys out there are actively working with generative AI? I'm curious. Awesome. So afterwards, I think we're going to skip the Q&A. And if you want to find me afterwards, I would actually love to ask you guys a lot of questions as well. So for us, a lot of the tools are very nascent. We ended up building our own stack in a lot of ways, whether that was hardware for the compute or that was putting together several different tools that we're stringing together to create the generative video. All that seems like it's still very early days. A lot of the content that we're getting was really unpredictable. I think next year we're going to be training our own models specifically for Coachella using a lot of the data sets where we would type in Coachella and we get something that was actually probably about like 70% there, but in a lot of ways kind of looked like Burning Man. And I don't know if the AI really knows the difference. So that for us was kind of funny. And then a lot of this is also hardware bound. We were trying to hit 30 to 60 frames a second. And I think currently that's really not feasible, even on some of the non-consumer level hardware. It's still a very big challenge to compute a lot of these things. So I wanted to share some of the things we're excited about after I shared some learnings. And I'm excited that the speed at which these things are moving. I'm sure all you guys are seeing a new headline every day about a text-to-video tool that's out there, all the amazing things that Adobe is doing. So I think that a lot of these experiments and a lot of the grand headlines are going to start turning into actual tools. I'm excited to see more integration, where there's a lot of offerings that span a lot of different types of content creation. But I'm not sure if all those are really coming together in a way that we're finding are super useful for the festival environment in real time. I'm really excited about some of the technical side of things, like what type of data can we infer using things like AI-generated depth maps, so that we can actually be possibly moving away from some of the hardware solutions out there to which drive a lot of the spatialized camera tracking data and move into more synthetic data that's AI-generated. That's something I'm super excited to start digging into. And then something that for me is super exciting, and I feel like I haven't quite seen it yet, so if anybody's building this, please come and find me, is actually using AI to generate 3D scenes. So as opposed to just flat pixels, the AI models that are out there are really great at kind of predicting what statistically is going to be a pixel that matches what you're asking for. But that doesn't mean we can drop it into a 3-camera broadcast television setup. That needs to be looking at this from multiple angles. And so this is something that I think is going to be a marriage between generative AI or machine learning to try to teach a machine, what does a scene in Unreal Engine or Unity look like? And then from there, we can drag and drop that into a headset or a broadcast television setup or an ICVFX setup. So that's something I'm super excited, hopefully to be seeing in the near future. I have been seeing an interesting sort of backlash against some of the AI. One thing that we've been seeing as a bit of a trend is a bit of a question between authenticity and what some people are referring to in sociology as prophilicity, which is this idea that as we're being more and more exposed as individuals on social media, that we build profiles for ourselves. that we're not necessarily representing our true self the way other pop culture movements, like the hippie movements, would let their hair grow out and just be like, this is who I am. I'm a person, I'm an animal, I don't even know, we're just gonna go and figure it out, to a world where people are highly curating who they want people to perceive them to be, and that's their profile. And so this is something that we were seeing kind of bubbling up in interesting ways within pop culture, where a lot of artists were not even doing special effects in their screen visuals. They were just showing videos of themselves. And in a way, I think this is a bit of a pulling back from what can AI do, or what can all these fancy 3D visuals do. And they're like, you know what, actually I'm gonna show me, and we're gonna go back to a simpler way of presenting pop culture. And so again, this brings us back to something that I'm not quite ready for, is which one of these do I want to represent myself as? And so this, I think, is actually something that within pop culture, in the context of things like music festivals, I think kids are really good at seeing through things that are fake. And so I do kind of question where we're going with a lot of the generative technology that is a synthesis and may not be truly original. So I think in some ways this is a little bit of a question mark about what is going to be relevant with future generations, because that's constantly where my thinking goes. It's like, what is going to be driving pop culture, not just now, but for the next generation? And so why does this matter? I feel like I need to kind of bring it back and ground it for a minute. Content creation, I think, is a very, very large industry. And I was speaking with some friends about, is AI the end of production companies and content creation? And I certainly don't think so. And there's definitely a lot of quotes out there about AI isn't going to take your job. The person that uses AI is going to take your job. And so I think it's going to be interesting. I think AI is going to drive an increase in efficiency. But for me personally, I don't think this is going to shrink the market or the demand. I think people are just going to be consuming more thanks to the increased efficiency of what these tools can allow us to create. These numbers are always hard to compute, so take this with a grain of salt. For anybody out there, I wanted to do just a real quick backtrack and just kind of ask, like, what is the spatial web? And I think I'm a little salty sometimes. I think the Web3 guys stole the term Web3. I kind of want to take it back. And I want it to be like the Web 3.0. We had the first web, we had Web 2.0, which was the social web. And I think we're actually really starting to get into a Web 3.0 that is a very integrated stack of many things, where a lot of this digital content is going to leave 2D screens and it's going to inhabit the real world. And I think AR and spatial computing is really the UI layer for accessing all of this rich data that's underneath that. And that's something that I'm super excited. So I went out and I stole some very cool pictures from a Deloitte article that I read. But I think this did a great job of really kind of outlining how this whole ecosystem is starting to come together. And I think generative AI can really speed up and accelerate how we start to process way more data than any human possibly could. This next level big data is definitely bigger than any one person can really understand. So I think we actually kind of need AI in a way to start to process and understand what's going on. But we can make that all human using spatial design. So just in conclusion, I think AI can help us scale the spatial web. And that's really, I think, at the meat of what I wanted to show you guys. But just like last year, I wanted to not necessarily end there. So I've got a few minutes left that I'm going to breeze through. So I want to show you guys one more thing. So last year, I showed you guys a beta video of a piece of software that we've been developing that is really intended to accelerate adoption by giving creator tools that are much more powerful than I think what we've been used to. So I wanted to play this video for you guys real quick.
Get down in the car, one time give it all, bust it open hard, let me see you drop. Get down in the car, one time give it all, bust it open hard, let me see you drop. I fucked up this Russell, baby, we hustle, but the oh my. fly. Know that they ride or die. Open heart, let me see you try. I fucked up this Russell, way we hustle, but the oh my. I fucked up this Russell, way we hustle, but the oh my. Get down in the car, one time give it all. Bust it open hard, let me see you try. Get down in the car, one time give it all. Bust it open hard, let me see you try.
So we've been hard at work trying to create, So when we presented the prototype last year, it was at a very early stage. We have not stopped working on it ever since. We were very fortunate to pilot it at Coachella this year, where we used Google APIs to tap directly into Google Gemini to generate textures and 2D plates that we then dragged and dropped into our 3D compositing pipeline straight to air. And so for us, this is all about trying to simplify a higher end of special effects that rather than trying to work from the bottom up with a mobile device, we are going as far as straight to the top as we can to make this as high fidelity as possible. And this is all about bringing multiple data streams and forms of analysis, as well as robotics and controlling DMX, lighting, PTZ cameras, filtering that into one 3D environment where you can reach your hands inside, play around with the content, move and manipulate the content in real time, and then export that in a multimodal fashion. We demonstrated this in Japan with our friends in Mawari, where we had 15 render machines that were all networked together using our software and then streamed over the Mawari network to 10 Magic Leap headsets. And so this was a combination of 2D video projection as well as spatial 3D content. And this is really intended for ICVFX, XR, and live events. Again, in MUTEC, we'll watch this real quick video. That was a very fun project. I'm going to pick this up a little bit. If you're curious how this workflow looks, essentially having one control unit. If anyone out there runs shows, you'll probably be familiar with programs like Resolume. This is really trying to one-up Resolume on the content front by doing real-time 3D, but then also be forward futuristic or future-looking in order to do 2D content as well as spatial XR content. And I'm going to go ahead and speed through the last of this. This was a demo that we're doing on the ICVFX stages at Epic Games at Nance Studios, where we were controlling 3D content via the PTZ cameras. And so this is really about automation. As a producer, sadly, I'm looking at line items all the time, and I'm like, okay, do we really need to take 30 people out to the desert to Coachella? That's a lot of money, a lot of people. Can we automate some of these tasks? And then, again, this is showing some of the generative AI, where we're using Google Gemini to drag and drop content. These hot air balloons were not real. They were just 2D images that were generated with AI. And then this content direct as textures. So I think that's all the time I had. Again, normally I think people would do a Q&A, but I'd actually love to chat with each of you individually. So if you have any questions, I'd love to have a one-on-one conversation with you guys outside. So thank you very much.